guys and girls, welcome back to YYC Designz Custom RC Creations, where the moose is loose in the shop. That's right, we're going to be working on Miss Moose today. Now, what I gotta do is I have taken a little time with my fancy sketching here and the help of my lovely lady Tams, as always, to help me design this up, is to figure out how to put a sliding boom and of course the stinger, side winches, front and rear outriggers, and mount the boxes and all of that. So what we've come up with is we will make a panel underneath the cab, obviously, and that'll keep everything in the cab dry and safe, but that's where we can use a little space under the driver's seat for battery or electronics if we need. Under the hood, of course, will be a double motor. We've decided we're going to go with a double motor on this because we're going to need the torque. And here on the back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build little brackets on the side here, and they will of course hold the box in place like so, yeah? And that way the side boxes will give me all kinds of room to mount all the electronics, the lights, and carry all the batteries we're going to need to operate this. As I mentioned to you before, we're going to go with some lithium-ion motorcycle batteries on this, and that should give us scads of power. She's obviously going to be a triple axle at the back, a dual axle up front, and so 5 axles total. I'm going to need the room underneath to be able to make all the axle mounts, the shock mounts, all of that stuff, so I have to leave it wide open, yeah? Having said that, now the outriggers will take in this space here between the marks here that I've made, so that way the outriggers can flow in and out just like Mr. Malachi's wrecker, and on his channel anyway. Malachi Mckay, thank you very much for all of your assistance with this wrecker again, but I am copying his wrecker except for the cab, so it is going to have outriggers exactly like his truck has. That's going to take in this space here, so the boxes actually sit back. I need to make a panel that comes off of here, comes up 3 inches, runs the length, and comes down, welds into place. And we've got a lot of little bits and pieces and welding to be made and going on here today, so let's get on with it, shall we?
Creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire. While you and me repeat suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire.
I'm not complaining or nothing, but it's like 90 degrees out here in my shop, if not a little closer to 100 degrees in the shop. I tend to love the heat. I just don't love to stand in a building in this kind of heat. I would rather be outside riding a bike or doing a little bit of something a lot more fun. But I do love what I'm doing here, building these RCs, so I can't really complain, yeah? Anyway, just thought I'd give you a little hint that it's a beautiful day outside and I'm just having a great time here. So as you can see, this is a bit of a mock-up, so it is coming along. Now, I've got a lot of work to do on the cab yet, undoubtedly. There's some things here that need a little bit of fixing up, but that's all going to come in time. Obviously, she needs a lot of cleaning up and that sort of thing. But I don't bother doing that until I am getting towards the final or needing to weld a piece on and need to clean the steel and all of that. So this box and the centerpiece that you will see here in a few minutes is made out of 20 gauge steel. The box I chose to rivet, just way easier. The rivets are hidden. And so as you can see, it's mocked up because it does have the supports underneath. Now I put 3 per side. They are the 1/2 inch channel steel, 1/8 thick wall. Obviously it started out to be 1/2 inch square tube with a 1/8 inch thick wall. And of course we channel it here in the shop because you can't buy it, like I've said numerous times. Anyway, a little bit of MIG welding, just tacked them on. It will now hold the box, give the box support, yeah, from the bottom. The other thing is, I have these little pieces here that I am going to figure out how to attach somehow. I will put them on so, and then I will have a place to attach to the side boxes along the back, giving it extra support and supporting the center panel, because obviously it's a little bit weak. I don't want to start putting too much for support in here, blocking up my access, because of course this is where I'm going to use this little piece here just so that you can see where I'm going with this. Now the boom will be mounted here, but it is going to be a sliding boom, a lot like Ron Pratt's wrecker. If you watch Ron Pratt on YouTube here, he has a fantastic channel. He shows, along with Malachi Mckay, they both are professional wrecker drivers, professional rotating wrecker drivers, and they show us a day in the life of a wrecker driver and film it, and it's quite interesting if you ever want to watch wreckers operate and hauling semis and the various other things they do. Malachi does a lot of interesting stuff, but Malachi's wrecker is a fixed boom. Ron Pratt's slides. So I'm going to take that one thing from Ron Pratt and make this a sliding boom wrecker, which means I will need the room under here for the motor to be able to make it rotate and do its thing, yeah, but also I'm going to have room under here for a slide assembly, drawbar assembly, to make the boom slide until I get to the rear draw winch or tow winch, whatever you want to call it. It is mounted about here, and it is just a winch that works off the back of the truck, and it's a drag winch basically is what they're called. And so the drag winch will mount up top. Underneath will be the mechanism that will allow the boom to slide, as well as to allow the boom to rotate in its various positions. Also, there is going to be 2 side winches mounted in this little space here, and then the outriggers will be in here as well. So a lot of stuff going in a lot of little spaces, ergo why I need as much space as I can get here without making the model too huge. But anyway, so here is the center panel, which will support not only the boom and the drag winch, but also all that mechanism underneath that I mentioned. I will be, when I'm done, adding a plate onto the bottom. It will screw in with just screws so that I can detach it if I ever need to access any of these motors in here. I will be cutting a slot down this panel here to allow the boom to do its sliding, but as you can see, this is where we're at. So this is what I was meaning by adding in a center box, and then the supports for the outer toolboxes, or equipment boxes if you will, to be sitting there. And this is a basic mock-up of the truck. It will be a 5-axle truck, so on the cab it will be suicide doors, meaning they will open from the front, not the back. They will open this way, yeah? And that way, that allows me my 2 axles under the front cab, and the tandem axle, the tandem drives at the back. So we will have 3 drive axles back there, 2 steer axles up front, and it should make quite an exciting little RC model, replica, whatever you want to call it, and be a lot of fun in the long run. Okay, so I decided to put both wreckers into one video, Moose and London Calling. So moving on to London Calling here, I hope y'all don't mind that I put both wreckers in the one video. It just makes it much easier for me on my video and editing processing. So this is the deck, the rear deck for London Calling. This is going to hold the rotator as well as the outriggers. Now, I've been in a bit of a quandary as to how to build the outriggers originally, and all of a sudden now an idea has popped into my head, which I think is going to work out fantastically. As you can see, the deck is 17 inches long, and it is a matter of 8 inches wide. So what I need to do now is I need to angle some off of the corners to be able to attach my outriggers and make them function. That was always the problem in my head, is how I'm going to get around the rotation of the outriggers from their upright position into their working position, and I think I've finally figured it out. The only problem is it is going to change the rails that I originally made for the deck that would fit on like so. Now I might have to alter these slightly, and because they're aluminum, I'm not going to be able to cut them and re-weld them, because again, my welding of aluminum is not great and I don't want a shitty looking joint somewhere. But I have figured it out so that I can alter these and still make it work, and ergo I haven't wasted the material. Or I will just leave them out altogether and I can re-straighten them and use them on something else. We'll see as that goes along. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark out my cuts on the deck here. It is a piece of very heavy 14 gauge aluminum. It will mount directly onto the frame via just bolting it on, and it will be heavy enough to mount all of my electronics and equipment that's got to go on it without adding anything else. And I can even build a couple of toolboxes and screw down on here to make it look more authentic. and realistic. So I need to mark this out now. Instead of the way I have it marked now, I need to mark it out to cut the angles, and then I'm going to get on to building the outriggers. So let's get moving with that, yeah?
Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire. Suffocating, I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire. Heart on fire. Set my heart afire.
Okay, so as you can see, I have notched the corners of London's back deck on the rear. Now, this is from the outside edges, a 30-degree angle, okay, which leaves this back section, I can't remember, it leaves it 4.5 inches wide at the very back, okay. And I took a little notch off the front. So theoretically, as you're exiting the cab, you're not going to have a sharp corner to run into. Now, the boom, as I said, is going to sit in here. So, and come off the back, which is obviously why I made the rear more narrow than I did the front. I want the boom to be able to drag something up closer access to the rear deck as you drag it up with the winches, yeah? So, remember in the last video I said that the legs were going to stand up like a crab. Well, here they are, and this is kind of sort of how they're going to sit. Now there's going to be L brackets on the bottom with holes drilled through so these can pivot on. But the point is, and let me move this closer to the edge of my bench. So now what happens is this leg pivots down and stops so, okay, and becomes an outrigger. And then when it's done, it lifts up and sits on the deck. So pivots down, performs as an outrigger, then pivots up when it is complete. Now there is going to be an actuator sitting in the center of this, and then as you notice I've got some bullet casings here. Now I'm an avid hunter and an avid gun guy, so I have lots of rifles and so on. So these are a bunch of 7mm casings I had left over that weren't any good for reloading, so I bring them out here and I use them for scrap and stuff like that. Sometimes they just go for scrap brass, and that's what I use to buy new steel, so that sort of thing. In this case though, the actuator, now if I can kind of show you this, try to imagine this being pointing down to the ground, this being the ground end. Of course, this is attached to the deck, so. Alrighty, so there's going to be an actuator that's mounted in the center of this. I may have to add a little piece of flat steel to screw it to, that's okay. But the actuator arm will come down through the 1/2-inch tube steel here and will push the leg out. Now I'm going to use these bullet casings as the leg. I've taken in the bottom, it's kind of hard to see here, I've taken in the bottom and I've notched them with a grinder. You can see a little bit there, and I apologize, I'm not focusing so good here. My camera for some reason does not like to focus close up. But anyway, so I've notched them to make feet so that they can kind of grip into the ground a little bit more, yeah? You can see it there, just the little nicks in them every so often. So they will attach to the actuator, and the actuator will push them out. So you won't see the arm of the actuator. All you will see, hopefully, is the bullet casing coming down and becoming the foot of the outrigger. Then, of course, when it's in position, it will pivot up and sit so. Now there will be one of these on each of the 4 corners. These take a little bit of time to make. I've only got the one made so far. I just fabbed this up so that I could show you on this video. I've got 3 more to make. But this is basically what's going to happen. Then there will be a servo mounted in here to be able to allow this to pivot. I'm going to hide the servo with some sort of toolbox or whatever, or I will hide it with a mechanism from the rear stinger. Now I'm keeping this all to 1/16 scale, but basically the boom will sit on the back of the deck, and as I said, the stinger will rest or the boom will rest on the stinger when it's not in use, or when it's going down the road, and then when I need it, the boom can lift up, pivot 360 degrees around the truck. I am going to put on the back of the boom here, I am going to put a little seat for another IG Joe to theoretically be able to be operating the boom. And then of course the stinger will be off the back to tow the disabled vehicle with. That stinger, by the way, will be almost identical to the same thing that is on Moose. It will just be a tow hook to remove the disabled vehicle, lift it up, change a tire, that sort of thing. So that's as far as we're going to get on London and Moose this time, guys and girls. No matter where you are in the world, I hope you all have a great rest of the weekend and on into the work week. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, please smash that little like button down there. Don't forget to hit the bell notification so you get notified of all our videos coming out to y'all. And if you haven't already, I'd be happy to have you subscribe and share this with your family and friends or somebody else in the hobby. And I do thank you for your support. This has been Twist with YYC Designz, Custom RC Creations. Have a great weekend, guys and girls. Take care. Bye-bye.